Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Space by Stanson's podcast. I'm Guy Stanley, your host, and this episode I'm chatting to Katie, a biophilic consultant and a well-accredited practitioner from Planteria. Now, this one's a bit different because I normally talk to designers around the feel and purpose and how people interact in a space, but this is a bit of a deep dive into biophilia and planting. So let's see where this goes. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you, Guy. Hi.
Very, very nice to have you here, as I've said. I'm actually going to have my notes on me today because I've already touched on it, but this isn't an average conversation for me. It's different, and I feel like I'm digging into a world that isn't my area of expertise, but I'm really interested in it. So I've got some questions that I want to ask you, just from like looking at your bio and your website and things. So yeah, kicking off really, what does your role at Planteria involve? What does that encompass?
Yeah, so basically my role at Planteria is to help clients to understand and integrate planting into their workplace to really make benefits for the people in the workplace. And a part of my job is to educate as well. So that might be through all of our partners and clients. So not just our end user clients, but also the architects and design world and channel partners as well, because we quite often are included into a workplace by a facilities management company, for example.
Okay.
So yeah, on a bit of a mission really to make sure people understand the why behind having planting so that they can really make the most of it.
Okay, so what is the difference? But you're a biophilic consultant. What's the difference between planting and biophilia?
That's a good question. But when we talk about biophilia, we need to be thinking about all of the natural elements. So, the light, and anything that we need in the natural world. So light, water features, the actual materials that things are built with, to connect ourselves to nature. So, even as you could be thinking of flooring, for example, if you had a wooden floor or a marble flooring, that's much more natural than lino in grey, say, or grey concrete floor. Really, if you think about the overall design concept, we're talking about all of those things. But the point that I'm coming from is to add the planting. So I will educate on all of biophilic design elements, but I can actually assist with the planting side of stuff. That's really where our expertise lies.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. So you're basically surrounding yourself in the world of planting all day long.
Yes.
And I'm very weekends.
More of it. Yeah, I do. So where I work, I'm very lucky. We have lots of plants around us, and we're also in a fairly rural place as well. So we've got, the views from our windows are lovely. And at the weekend, I always get out into nature personally, either in my garden or out for walks. It's essential, and it's really good for my mental health. I feel like I need that connection.
How does that change how you feel?
Well, there's lots of science to back this up, but I don't know. You tell me, when you go out into a park or a garden, how does it make you feel?
Well, very good question. I'm actually quite enjoy running, and I run in trails, like through woods and things, and I always feel like I'm a bird. I always literally feel ridiculously light, and I feel like I'm flying, and just very no stress, very. I always like when I get home, my wife's like, "How do you feel?" And I'm like, "I'm literally flying." Yeah, scoring.
I get that. I really do. And part of that will be the endorphins that you're releasing on that run, which great. We need to have that hit of, endorphins that make us feel amazing. A runner's high, it's known as.
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But part of that as well is exercising in nature and taking that in, being surrounded by that. Now, there are studies that prove that spending 120 minutes a week outside in nature will give you a much better health. So overall better health. It will improve your potential for longevity, decreases your blood pressure. It's really helps you to also make better, healthier choices for yourself overall in your diet and other things that you do. So 20 minutes a day or 120 minutes a week is optimal. And during the pandemic, 45% of people responded to survey to say that they needed to have that hour of exercise a day or get out into their garden to help them cope during the pandemic. So there's a lot of proof there, that we need to really connect ourselves and be outdoors more. And also the fact that you need natural daylight to make your circadian rhythm work properly. Like people that work nights and don't get enough natural daylight, that can really affect their mental health and their overall well-being.
Yeah, or even in other countries, like where today is actually the longest day. It's a summer solstice.
Wow.
Gosh, that is cool. But anyway, when it's the opposite, when it's the shortest day and you're in Sweden and there's like no sunlight, they do suffer from sad.
Yeah, they do.
Sad disease.
Yeah, that's right. Because you need vitamin D from the sun. Again, that's really important. And in the UK, recommendation is that you actually take vitamin D.
All year round.
Well, yeah, because we don't in this country. In the UK, we tend to spend 95% of our time indoors. So, again, unless you're making an effort to get outside, you could really be lacking in vitamin D.
Yeah, I believe it. That's interesting. Another thing is actually, I had a note on, is you are a AP.
Yeah.
Whatever AP stands for.
Yeah, accredited professional. Oh, no, accredited practitioner, that's the word.
So you're well AP certified.
Yeah.
Has that changed how you think?
Yeah, it has. And I think the reason why I decided to take that accreditation, and there's quite a lot of work goes into that. I'm sure that anyone that's done it will agree with me. It's 100 hours of study and then a 3-hour exam at the end of it. And it's not an easy exam either. So you really have to take it seriously. Yeah. But what it's done is it's given me a real appreciation for the importance of a holistic approach to the workplace and to really understand why it's important to make the workplace people-centric. So, you're not just designing a practical space, but you're really considering the people that are going to use the space and how you can support them to be at their optimal best. It's good for return on investment, and companies that strive to achieve well have proved time and again that they actually do better as a company. They have better results than companies that don't achieve well in terms of their turnover, their staff retention, the actual bottom line benefits of profitability improve when you take that approach. So it looks at, every element that we need as humans, so like the quality of the air, quality of the water, availability of good quality drinking water, movement, supporting people with getting enough physical activity, thinking about how you can support people's mental well-being, all of those things. So it's made me really, I've always thought holistically, and that we need to, to do more, and we shouldn't just be thinking in isolation of let's just have this quick fix. But this really backs that up with the science behind each concept.
Yeah. So like the underpinning message is about holistic thinking?
It's about holistic thinking and really putting people first, in a space and thinking, is this space doing what it should be doing? How can I better help the people within this space to be healthy? Because ultimately, if you think about it, some spaces that are designed, I'm sure we can all think about workspaces that don't help people to be healthy at all. So those spaces where you walk in the door, you get in the lift, you go to your desk, you sit at your desk for 8 hours, there's nowhere to get any healthy, decent food. Maybe there's not a drinking water or filtered water facility for drinking, so you end up drinking tea and coffee all day long. There's no gym nearby, there's no green spaces nearby. So you maybe eat your lunch at your desk, you get a sandwich or you bring it from home or something, or maybe you go to the KFC around the corner. No offence to KFC, but you if you're eating fast food every day, that's not healthy. And perhaps you have to get in your car to get there, get in your car to go home. That's
Were you saying to me that sitting's the new smoking?
Exactly.
Was it you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so does that come into work? Is that what you learned?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we really need to be setting people up for success. And by doing that, ultimately, if you have a healthy workforce,
yeah,
I mean, that in itself, there's lots of other things to consider as well. But, and physically, how you feel physically affects how you feel mentally. That everything's connected.
Yeah. So if I'm bought in, I want I'm bought into Biophilia. What does... How do I do a brief? Like, what does a brief look like? Because you have your own in-house designers, right? Planting designers.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
How do they get briefed? How does that process start, or when should it start?
Yeah.
What does it look like?
Right. It should really start, especially for big projects, as early as possible.
What does that look like?
So that could look like involving the end user client. Most the best projects it will. So on the best projects, you would have your design team, your interior design or your art team, or your architect, whichever design and build company is doing your project for you, and engaging early on with those people, so that everybody understands what the overall achievement is, what we're looking to do, what the concept is, the design concept. How does the interior design team want the finished piece to look? And with our Biophilic consultancy side of things, what we can do then is to guide to get the best possible results. So that might mean looking at a project and calling out potential issues early on. So it could be looking at a space and saying, this looks beautiful, but have you considered how we would access the planting to maintain it? Or it might be talking about costings really early on, so that you can handle and plan that part of it in. Or it might be that we're needing to looking at lighting levels for specifying certain types of planting. So it's really popular right now to have interior trees, and that's a tricky piece.
Is it? Why?
Yeah, because trees don't really belong inside buildings, but they can work if you've got the right kind of lighting levels.
Okay.
So if for example, you've got natural lighting in a stairwell, or you've got an atrium with a glass roof, or you can specify in really high lux plant growing lights, you can really set that up for the optimal conditions to make that work. But if it's left to the last minute, you're not going to be able to do that and have such a strong impact on that.
So am I literally basically swearing if I say, could we have plastic or artificial?
No, not at all. Absolutely not. So you can
say yes.
No, not at all. So I think there is a place for artificial planting in some schemes.
Okay.
And ultimately, what we want to do is to help the designer's vision come to life. So I think that the sky's the limit, really, with what you can do with planting schemes. And we're really grateful for working with interior designers, because they have definitely pushed the boundaries for us in terms of planting schemes. I mean, if you think back to when planting in offices became a thing, right? Probably we started in 1977.
Okay.
And back then, you would have had a few pots in reception, a containerised pot with plants in, and you might have had something in the boardroom, and that really would have been where it stopped at. But designers have put plants into joinery planters. Like, that wasn't a planting company doing that. That was a designer going, oh, this looks great, let's do this. And we've helped them achieve their vision. And then that has become kind of the standard practice for, incorporating planting into furnishings is now pretty much a standard practice, isn't it?
Yeah.
And coming on more recently, hanging planting, plants hanging from ceilings all around tea points is a big thing. You've got your tea and coffee making area or a bar, and you've got high level planting going on. Now that's difficult to access. If you've got high level planting around a bar area, it's difficult to access that, to water it and maintain it. So that would be an ideal kind of use of artificial planting, because it looks great. I mean, it looks amazing, and you can actually have it, it doesn't have to grow, so you can have it dangling long, hanging, because you can have artificial planting looking any way you want it to, really. And then you'd have real live planting elsewhere in a project.
So does it have the same impact on us as humans?
Oh, that's a great question. It does, if you don't know it's artificial.
Seriously?
So, yeah, right.
Oh my goodness,
yeah.
tricking our brains.
Exactly that, right? So you know how, you might know, like how people react to babies, for example. Like people, we're naturally, as humans, we are predisposed to love babies and baby animals because because for us, we have a natural wish to nurture and care for things. And so, you see this cute baby with the big eyes, and oh, it's so sweet, and oh. But if it turns out that that's a doll, then you're a bit freaked out by that. So if you go, oh, what a cute baby, and then you walk over to it and it's a doll, this has been proven, you'd be like, oh, now I don't feel quite so loving towards that because it's not real. It doesn't need my care. It's still quite cute, but now it's maybe a little bit creepy. So that's the thing, you see, you realise now you've been tricked. But when you saw the cute doll in the pushchair from a distance, you thought, oh, how cute. And now you know it's not real. You're feeling a bit freaked out. So it's the same with artificial planting. Like from a distance, looks real, has that effect. Like you feel calm in that space, you feel relaxed. It's making you feel like it's an oasis of greenery. When you actually got up to it, if you touched it and you were like, oh, it's fake, you would not feel as strongly triggered in a good way by the planting.
So in like super basic guy terms, if you can touch it, it needs to be real. And if you can't touch it, it can be artificial.
Pretty much. I would say that's a really good way of explaining it, yeah. And do you think of it from design terms like soft furnishing, really? So again, I think it's okay behind a reception desk because the receptionist will know that's not real. But if you've got an artificial living wall, then you can get some amazing ones. And it's far enough away so that you're when you're approaching the reception desk, you're not face to face with that. It will have that wow factor of a big swathe of greenery that looks incredible. So, yeah.
There's also this other thing, isn't it, where they do like preserved planting?
Yes.
Is that what you do? Or?
Yeah, we can do that too. Yeah, absolutely.
And that is basically real plants.
It's real plants.
So that is real.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But it's just not living, so you can't nurture it.
That's right. So it doesn't need as much maintenance, which is why it's a great thing.
And it doesn't trigger our nurtury bit.
Maybe a little bit more so, actually. It does have that tactile quality to it. Have you touched a moss wall?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you shouldn't really touch moss walls because obviously...
They smell weird.
They do at first.
How do you do that?
That dissipates after a while.
What's a while?
I would say, rule of thumb, I would say about a month. And I know this because we have one in the office. And when we first got it, there was that moss smell. And it's a natural item.
It smells mouldy, though.
But do you think it has to me, it's reminiscent of fish tanks. Like that, like...
But you probably like the smell.
It's not...
Your perfume.
It's a bit aquatic, isn't it? It's a bit aquatic. Have aquatics in some perfumes, don't you? Like,
that's probably actually true.
Yeah. But it does go, like, really literally within a month.
Yeah, okay.
I was no longer noticing that. And we've got a big moss wall in our office. Yeah.
Interesting, because I always was like the moss. I was like, it's so weird. Like, it smells weird. And it's also like the stuff you kind of try and spray off your driveway.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
On the driveway?
Well, I'm a bit of a non-weeder. I kind of let my garden do its own thing a little bit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite.
Yeah.
I am like the weeds.
Well, that's why you're in design and I'm in planting.
Yeah, but it's cool. I love finding someone that likes weeds. It's brilliant.
I do.
Can come around any time, of course.
I actually take pictures of them when I go out for walks as well. Weeds like poppies and things growing naturally. I find things in the wild growing and I take photos of them.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Most people have pictures of like cats of Instagram. You've got like poppies and bluebells.
I have. Literally, yeah.
You'd start a like plants of Instagram
Yeah, I have to say I'm a bit of a Facebook person, which is really like, that's showing my age, right?
You did actually, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh no, that's interesting. That's really cool. I love that, and I love that I can actually get behind that in terms of getting a brief together, getting it over early. I guess it's the client that's got to be almost brought in and brief the interior designers, and then the interior designers sort of almost get a biophilic consultant to help them realise that vision.
Absolutely. I think on big projects, it's really important. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things that could potentially go wrong if you don't, or what you really want to do is you want to make things go right. Right. You want there to be a really good experience, a really good client engagement experience and end user experience. And you want to make sure that you iron out anything that could go wrong in terms of maintenance, in terms of lighting, and installation as well. If you've got a big project, and some of the projects that we're working on, we're talking about 1,000 plants, 4 or 5 levels of a building. And so you've got different installations happening at different times. The project completion dates are going to be really important for the client, and the earlier you can get involved in that project, the more you can control all of those parts and make sure that nothing goes wrong for the client. And in terms of client experience as well, I think designers can sometimes think of planting as a last minute thought, as a soft furnishing, dressing, which it's not. It's so much more than that in terms of what it can do for you, in terms of how it makes you feel, but actually the engagement from the client side. So, for example, we had one client, Legal and General, and we were engaged early on in a project from the client, and we were able to really enhance the project with storytelling that connected the planting to the place, to the culture of the company. So what we did there was, we knew that Legal and General had this beautiful logo, the famous umbrella logo, and we had a hero plant for their planting scheme, which was the Chevalier, the umbrella plant. And so
it looks like an umbrella.
It kind of has the stalks are quite long, and then the leaves kind of come out over it.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So it's beautiful. It's a lovely plant, and it's quite a cute plant. But we had that as the hero plant for them. We were able to really bring the planting scheme to life, and also when they were,
excuse the pun,
but when they unveiled their new space, they could say, this is the plant that we've chose for this project because it echoes our logo. So you're going to find this plant around in most of the displays as a prominent feature.
That's really nice. So I am a client, and I'm putting a business case forward to my boss, or I'm an interior designer and I'm pitching to a client. What are the top 3 reasons why do I need to put in a considered planting scheme?
Okay, I think for a start, I think you need to put planting in as part of your biophilic design scheme.
Why?
Because we know that when people are connected to nature, it helps them to cope with stress. It creates a space where people feel calmer and also to feel uplifted. So it basically improves mood. And this is why it's a recommendation on well-certified projects, people that are trying to achieve well. One of the recommendations is that 75% of desks should have a line of sight to planting. That doesn't necessarily just mean plants in the office. That could mean a view from the window. So, for example, if you've got an office which has windows facing a park or some, rolling fields, amazing. That does the job for you. But there's a dose-response relationship with nature. The more you're exposed to it, the more improved these feelings will be, and also improves productivity. So that's number one. That's the number one reason.
Stress.
Prevention of stress, improvement of mood, and improvement of productivity. So, like, for example, there's one study that was done coming out of Exeter University, which a colleague of mine worked on, which took a live office, a working office, and it had no planting, no connection to nature to start off with. They engaged the employees and they were allowed to sort of choose some of the planting that was going to be put in. They put planting in onto people's desks. And then after a while, they took the planting out. Now, while the planting was in place, productivity went up on average by 15%. So, you know, if you would ask the CEO or the managing director of that company,
big boss,
would you be interested in improving productivity of your staff by 15%? I don't think there's anyone that would say no to you.
No.
And planting is actually a really good value way. If you're talking about return on investment, it's not going to be the most expensive part of your fit out by any stretch.
So reducing stress, increasing productivity by 15%.
And looking great, right? I mean, you know, just from a point of view, if you showed people, if you were creating a design scheme, you'll find most designers will put some planting in that scheme for the client. The initial mood boards, the initial design work will include some greenery, some planting. And if you compare a design scheme with planting versus one with no planting, which do you think people are going to go for? Which do you think is going to be more attractive? But so why isn't that planting then thought about earlier on in terms of making that work and specifying the right kind of plants?
Is there a good location to put plants? Is there like an optimal location?
Yeah, I guess if you aren't going to put it everywhere, because a lot of clients do now, you know, a lot of clients will have it in every space. There'll be some planting on every floor. Ideally, you want it where most people are going to be able to see it. So, you know, communal areas make us a lot of sense. Or if you've got banks of desk, putting it on locker tops is a great idea because you're going to have it where most people are going to be able to see it. And of course, reception areas, that's always a winner because it has that initial welcoming impact as well.
I was actually with an interior designer recently and I was walking around a project and they had, it wasn't narrow, but it was a walkway. And they had put quite a elaborate planting scheme on the wall, not a moss wall, like little plant pots, like half sticking out the wall with flat.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
You did? Okay. I wasn't sure the way you said it there.
No, it was.
You liked it, yeah.
It was loads of them close together. You couldn't almost see the plant pots.
Yeah.
It was like half a plant pot, like.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Out. Yes. Yeah.
So from like looking at it, it was just like a plant. It was like a planted wall.
Yeah.
Don't know what the right words are. Anyway. And I was like, I like this. And he goes, yeah, we purposely put it in there because the walkway is like relatively narrow. And so you have to brush past it and touch it.
Oh, right.
And I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And I suddenly sort of had a bit more love for that wall because you actually touch it. It was quite cool.
I think that's interesting. And another feature in another sort of recommendations is as part of the movement feature to get people moving more is to put planting into the stairwell. So that you're really making that a feature and you're encouraging people to use the stairs rather than the lift. You know, quite often you find stairs are behind the fire door, they're a fire escape, and they are very unloved, aren't they, when they're in that situation? They tend to be painted that grey non-slip paint and there's nothing going on there.
They can actually have a bit of a connotation of being a bit scary as well.
Yeah,
like
they can.
Creepy people on the stairs sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, planting on stairs is wicked.
Yeah. And, of course, roof terraces and balconies, you know, that kind of thing. If you've got small outdoor space and you put planting there, you're creating a view, essentially. If you've got a window and you've got a balcony and no planting, there's less of a view. If you dress it more. But you're also actually being a good neighbour because you're creating a view for other people in that area. And in London, I think, you know, we can have this concrete mass, can't we, in some areas of London. I know that there's other parts that do really well with inclusion of green roofs and roof gardens and terraces. And you appreciate it when you go to a building and you look outside and you're looking across someone's terrace or roof garden. I actually think, oh, I'd love to be sitting there. You know, that's... Or a restaurant with a roof garden. I mean, how lovely in the summer to...
Always want a roof garden. Always want a roof garden. Definitely pay more for my seat if it's got a roof garden.
Yeah.
Also, how do we consider biophilia in the building location, like in terms of like where it's actually located and like our journey into the building from like an external perspective?
So, do you sort of mean sort of welcoming people in and making it feel?
Yeah, so even before you've sat at your desk, or you're sat at your desk, but like obviously we have nice views, but then on your way in, is there anything like you do in terms of planting from like an external perspective, just to sort of like decompress, de-stress people as they're coming in?
Well, yeah, I think reception areas are really great to have
I'm
planting.
thinking like outside.
Oh, outside.
External, like out.
Oh,
of the
yeah,
building
facade
location.
planting. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And of course, that is also, window dressing for a building too. So it's good to have some courtyard. If you've got a courtyard area or you've got access to an exterior place, you should definitely put planting there. That's absolutely. Then you're encouraging people to take meetings outside, to be able to have a relaxation area, maybe have some food, sit outside with your lunch. I think that's really key. The more we can encourage people to get outside and get some fresh air, then amazing.
We can think about inside, don't we? When we're talking about fit
Yeah.
outs and stuff like that. But I just think about like sort of coming up to the building. Coming up
Well, that's all part of being a good neighbour as well, creating areas. And I think as well, now that we're coming into hot, drier weather, it's really important to think about shade. And if you've got trees, that again is a really, really useful thing to be able to provide people with some shade, and also the building with shade as well. Talking about providing green walls outside and trees, you can protect the building from glare and improve that shade
that's interesting.
advantage. Yeah.
And how does it fit into sustainability goals? How does planting fit in there? Because it's obviously like a natural material, so it's not like using plastic or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So how does it fit in sustainably? What do you talk about?
Yeah, well, I think that is a good question as well. I think when you're talking about sustainability, I prefer to use ESG.
Okay, why?
As a term, because again, I think it's more holistic.
Okay.
So when people think about sustainability, some people, not everybody, different things mean different things to different people, don't they? But sustainability, quite often people are thinking about carbon net zero, building materials, recycling.
Yeah.
That's what they're thinking about. Whereas I think if you go for the slightly more holistic approach of ESG, environmental, social responsibility and governance, that is really where you can tick quite a few of your boxes with planting. So by that, I mean, we know it's important for people. We know that in an exterior space, we know that planting can improve biodiversity net gain, for example, right?
What's that mean?
So there's a piece of legislation around now that says if you're building a new building, you need to leave nature better than you found it.
Oh, cool.
So you either do that by offsetting or by on-site creating a habitat for nature.
Cool.
So you can do that. I mean, you can make some real positive implementations in an exterior space that will provide that, with trees and natural flora and fauna, things that will attract local species of wildlife. They might not always be the prettiest type of habitats, but, thinking about that, doing a no-mow May, if you've got a large exterior space and you...
More weeds.
Well, exactly, but wildflowers and, allowing and not weed spraying and those kind of things.
So you're looking at me.
Well...
No, it's fine. Great.
But, so you're thinking about the different areas there. So the environmental...
Yeah.
And also thinking about the sustainability of how can you make your plants really sustainable, which if you specify the right type of plants and you've got a maintenance contract in place, those plants will do well and last a long time. So again, that's sustainability. And in terms of your supplier, so we are a sustainable supplier, and that's really important. We should all be looking at our own sustainability, our own supply chain, checking that that's ethical.
So you're a sustainable supplier, like how?
So we're a sustainable supplier because we have our own ESG policy that we're working very hard on. And part of that will mean things like recycling rainwater so that we can water our own plants in our own head office, our stock that we keep there, using rainwater, looking at our fleet and making that, a sustainable fleet with more electric vehicles, how we recruit, doing that ethically, all of those things, they're important to our clients. So we're then helping them with their governance piece. So, for example, paying the national wage, having clear policies and guidelines as to how you run allows you to help other people achieve their own sustainability and ESG policy. So, if we all do our bit and we're all working really hard to improve things and constantly monitoring how we're procuring, how we're supplying, I think the world would be a better place.
Thank you very much for listening. I'm also very grateful to all our guests. If you've enjoyed it, please do leave us a rating and a follow. Or if you know who else would like to join the podcast, share the names. We're always open to hearing. Until next time, keep happy, keep healthy, and take care.